When I was 13 years old, I stood at the edge of a decision that would change the entire course of my life. It didn't come with fireworks or dramatic music. There was no spotlight, no screaming crowd. Just a quiet moment in the rain, a muddy pair of sneakers, and a wrinkled acceptance letter clutched in my hand. My name is Michael Carter, and I grew up in a small town outside of Des Moines, Iowa. Not exactly the kind of place where big dreams tend to stick. People there often joke that ambition was something you grew out of by the time you turned 20 and picked up your first set of keys to the family tractor. But I wasn't built like that. I couldn't shake the idea that the world was bigger than soy fields and morning routines. Still, for the longest time, I kept my head down and did what was expected. School, chores, Sunday dinner with the family, and the occasional pickup game of baseball with the neighbors. Then, one ordinary Tuesday in April, I got into Franklin Academy. It wasn't just any school, it was a private arts boarding school in Portland, Oregon. I'd applied on a whim, almost secretly. The guidance counselor had encouraged me, not because she thought I'd get in, but because she believed trying new things builds character. The letter came on a rainy morning. My mom handed it to me at breakfast, still half asleep. "Looks fancy," she said, not knowing what it was. I opened it, read it twice, and then sat there frozen as the words hit me. Accepted. Full scholarship. Orientation starts in August. I looked at my parents, both staring at me from across the kitchen table. "Well," my dad finally said, "looks like you got some thinking to do." And he was right. I spent the next 3 weeks in a storm of indecision. I'd never left home before. I'd never even been on a plane. The idea of moving across the country to live with strangers in a city I'd only seen in Google Images was as thrilling as it was terrifying. My mom was supportive in a practical kind of way. She started asking questions about dorms and meal plans and travel costs. My dad, he was more quiet. He'd built a life with his hands, fixing things, building barns, working hard every single day. He didn't understand what I saw in music, in writing, in film. He didn't try to talk me out of it, but he didn't exactly talk me into it either. One night, I overheard him talking to my uncle on the phone. "I don't know, Josh," he said, his voice low. "Maybe he's not cut out for this place anymore." That's when I knew I had to go. Arriving in Portland was like stepping into another dimension. Everything was loud and fast and beautiful in a chaotic kind of way. Franklin Academy sat on a hill overlooking the city, a mix of glass buildings and old red brick halls. Students carried sketchbooks and guitars instead of textbooks. People smiled and waved even when they didn't know your name. My roommate was a kid named Ryan from Chicago. He wore a denim jacket with patches on it and always had headphones around his neck. "You play?" he asked on the first night, pointing to the keyboard case I'd brought with me. "A little," I said. He smirked. "Everyone here says that until they blow you away." And he was right. The talent at Franklin was ridiculous. Singers who could melt your soul. Writers who could make you cry with a single sentence. Dancers who floated like air. For the first month, I felt like I was barely keeping up, but slowly things started to shift. I started writing songs in the music room after hours. A teacher named Mr. Bennett heard me once and encouraged me to submit one to the winter showcase. I said no. He submitted it anyway. It got picked. The showcase changed everything. I walked onto that stage in front of 300 students, hands shaking, knees locked. But when I sat down at the piano and started to play, something clicked. The lights, the quiet, the heartbeat of the crowd. It all faded until it was just me and the music. That night, for the first time, I felt like I belonged. People started remembering my name after that. Ryan introduced me to a filmmaker named Elena who needed music for a short film. I worked with her, then with 2 more students after that. One small opportunity led to another, then another. By the end of the year, I wasn't just the kid from Iowa who played piano. I was a collaborator, a creator, someone who mattered in this vibrant, electric community. Fast forward 2 years, and I was interning at a post-production studio downtown. It wasn't glamorous. I mostly made coffee and organized hard drives. But I was learning, watching how sound design worked, how music shaped emotion in film. One night after everyone left, I stayed behind to tinker with a scene that had been giving the team trouble. I added a subtle string track, adjusted the timing, layered an ambient sound. The next morning, the creative director played it and just stared at the screen for a moment. Who did this? I swallowed hard. Me. He looked at me. Nice work. Do it again. Now I'm 24. I live in Los Angeles, working full time as a composer for film and TV. I've had my work featured in commercials, on streaming platforms, even a few indie films that played at festivals. Every time I walk into a studio, I remember that moment in the rain. The letter, the kitchen table in Iowa. I go back and visit sometimes. My parents still live in the same house. My dad still shakes his head when I tell him about a new project. Beats baling hay, he says, but there's pride in his voice now. I'm telling you this not because I think my story is extraordinary, but because I want you to know how fast life can change when you make one bold decision. When you trust the spark inside you, even if it scares you, even if no one else understands it. There will be doubt. There will be days you wonder if you've made a huge mistake. But if you listen carefully, you'll hear it. That voice that says, keep going. That voice changed my life. And maybe if you're standing at a crossroads right now, it'll change yours too.